Deadlock will never be the same after this small balance change quoted by Yoshi. This is probably one of the biggest balance changes we've ever had for Deadlock. And today in this video, we're going to dissect why and what happened in this patch and how you can be ahead of the curve and abuse the things that were changed in the patch. So the first and probably most important change of the patch that Valve has done is they've completely reworked how the laning phase works. So if you go here to this little practice range, you can see these minions fighting. And when you kill a minion now, there's a portion of the souls that you get from the minion that fall on the ground. So here, I'll try to stay away so I don't pick it up. But you see that soul little down there, right? You have to walk up to collect this soul or you will miss out forever. So you'll see I can grab it. Plus 80, right? Plus 80. So you need to walk up to these orbs that drop on the ground to collect the souls or you'll miss out forever. The heal creep no longer has charges. So if we go to our heal creep here, it's not healing us or anything. It's not lighting up the banner. The reason for that is the heal is now stored in the enemy minion. You must kill the enemy minion to where it drops a health pack and it heals you. Very similar to how the soul orb mechanic works. So what are the implications of this change? Well, essentially, heroes that are very scary to walk up to, such as Drifter, which you guys have been seeing a lot of, I'm sure. And that's not because of this reason exclusively. It's also because of some other reasons, which we'll get into later. Abram, Shiv, these are the characters that are going to be really good laners now, because when you walk up to the soul orbs, you're going to get Abram's charge, you're going to get Drifter slash, you're going to get Shiv dash, right? So no longer can you kind of uninteract with the lane and throw kudzus from a million miles away and just AFK behind your guardian. You still can to an extent, but if you don't walk up to these orbs, you will miss out on the souls to be gained from them. Also, guys, we now need to think a lot more about wave management. If you're just shooting the minions and not really thinking about what's going to happen after, you're going to find yourself in positions where you can't really grab these orbs because the orbs are too close to the enemy tower, or maybe you're too low HP to grab them, so on and so forth. So what I recommend as advice to kind of deal with this change in the patch is think very, very, very deeply about when you're shooting your minions and what the consequence will be. Where will the wave be after you clear this wave? And is it a favorable spot? Is it going to fuck you over? Etc, etc. Another important change you should be very aware of is now we start with 600 souls instead of 400. So basically, Valve also reworked a little bit about how like boons work and like when you hit your boons. So after the first wave, I don't think you get an ability point upgrade. Instead, you just get enough money to basically buy from the shop. So I'm solo right now on this wave, so I'm gonna get more money than if I were to be duoed. But after the first wave, you essentially just need to go back to the shop and buy. It's not something you really ever used to do, but now you want to get into the habit of doing it. Valve also has changed the soul sharing rules in Deadlock for waves. So the least efficient way to catch a wave is with 6 people, and you're only getting 96% of the total souls from that wave. The most efficient is now between 2 and 3 people. It's 108%. It's not as drastic as what it was. I think before it was like you gained 130% of the total soul with 2 people. Basically, what this kind of means is that now it's much more okay to funnel souls into one hero because the difference between 2 people and 1 people is 8% soul gain. So it's much better to funnel now if you would like, and if that's a part of your team's game plan and draft. I'm sure that's not probably how it's going to operate in matchmaking. It's probably going to still be a chaotic, you know, crazy show going on, but it's just a nice thing for team stuff. Jungle creeps all across the board got buffed, and not buffed in the amount of gold they give, but buffed in the amount of damage and spear resist they have. So basically, Valve made the jungle harder to take, but more rewarding to take. And they also increased the respawn or decreased the respawn timer of the tier 1 camp by about 60 seconds. So I think the most important change out of this, honestly, is that tier 1 camp change. Now, before you hit your 3k power spike in lane, I think you have 2 tier 1 camp spawns. Gun damage and gun damage growth got increased by about 10%. What I have noticed in my matchmaking games, anecdotally, is that a lot of characters that wouldn't conventionally build gun are now building gun, and it seems to be working very, very well. So I guess you could say we're in a gun meta now, but that's not to say that spirit is not strong. It still is quite strong, and it's going to be strong given this next change we're going to talk about here. All right, guys, this is definitely one of the biggest changes of the patch. Basically, Valve added in an extra tier to weapon investments, vitality investments, and spirit investments. If you can see here, the one that I'm hovering over now, you'll see at 4.8k souls, there's a star, and there's a big jump. So you see 3.2k, you get 19 spear power. 4.8k, you get 45 spear power. So they basically added in thresholds for each investment that you want to hit to get the most value. This is going to completely change how the game works. It's going to completely change builds. It's going to completely change approaches to the game. I can't really speak on what the most optimal approach is now, but this is essentially something that you really want to think about when you're making builds for Deadlock. Am I hitting that 4.k investment point for the vitality, for the weapon, for the spirit? Some characters will probably want to hit all of them. Some characters will probably want to hit 2 of them. Whatever you want to do is up to you. But the reason that I say that spirit characters are very strong, weapon damage is a % increase of your base bullet damage, right? Building a bunch of gun damage early won't provide a lot of value because your gun bullets is not that high. % that you're increasing it by won't be as much than if you had like a lot more boons and your gun damage was more scaled, right? Now, spirit is a flat. So it's like a flat damage increase. So this spirit power investment spike is going to be very meta for a lot of spirit characters to rush because it's just an insane damage increase and it works perfectly for the early game. Rushing 4.8k souls to just get a boost of 45 spirit power, that flat damage you're going to be dealing with all your abilities is going to be so impactful. So characters like Mina, characters like Pocket, even though they were nerfed, right? This essentially is a buff to them. They were never able to do something like this before, and now they are. So these characters are going to be very dominant. So there was a lot of changes made to walkers. TLDR, the walkers are much more harder to take now, but I'm gonna go through some of the changes a little bit here in the practice tool with you guys. So now you can't shoot walkers outside of this little circle here. You have to be within the circle to deal damage. If you walk too far up to the walker within this circle, the walker will stomp. Just step out of the range. The walker stomp cooldown got reduced. When the walker also shoots out fireballs, which I don't know when it's gonna do. I guess maybe we need some minions here to do that. But if it were to shoot out fireballs and you stand in the fireballs, your bullet resist and your spirit resist will get reduced by about 10%. So these walkers now are just much more difficult to take. So if you look at the bottom left here, we have 3 flex slots. It used to be 4. So Valve basically unlocked one of the flex slots for us. They also changed the condition that flex slots are unlocked. So it used to be like base guardians or lane guardians. You had to destroy the right to get some flex slots. Now it's just all centered around the walkers. So if you can see here, unlocked after your team destroys 1, 2, 3. So you need to kill these walkers on the map to unlock these flex slots. The implication of this change, mainly, I'm going to speak for the context of this free slot we have now. It's going to be much easier for gun characters to scale, even if your team is very far behind, because you're going to have an extra item slot to play with, assuming if you don't destroy any of the walkers. God bless Yoshi. Mid-boss was nerfed across the board. So now it's not, oh, the team has mid-boss, GG. It's the team has mid-boss, okay, it's still winnable. They removed all of that buff jazz that you get. You get no more max health, you get no more spirit power, you get no more fire rate, right? You just get the rejuve. And instead they're like, okay, when you kill the mid-boss, you're gonna get 2 permanent buffs per player, and not the, you know, the 10% max health. It's like the golden statue buffs, I'm assuming. I'm very happy about this change. W Yoshi. So we're gonna head into some item changes. There was some other changes in regards to general balance I didn't go over, and that's because I don't view them as important. I mainly went over the things that you, the player, should know going into this patch. But moving into items, cooldown reduction was nerfed across the board. And I think that this is really important, because a thing that a lot of players haven't been doing is people don't play for cooldowns as much as they should be. Like whenever Hero uses a critical ability in the fight, people don't monopolize off of it. And I think that this change is a nice step in the direction for people to play more like that. Cult to Sacrifice, instead of it providing fire rate when you consume a minion, now provides weapon damage. I think it's kind of a nerf a little bit in a way. I think fire rate is a much more exclusive stat than weapon damage. However, if we think back to the jungle camp changes where they buffed the jungle camp gold that you get, and also they buffed the amount of damage and spear resist that these jungle camps have, it is a little bit of also a buff when you think about those changes, because now Cult to Sacrifice gets more value because now you're killing a harder creep that gives more gold with Cult to Sacrifice, right? As in killing, as in consuming it, eating it with the item. So people have been saying Capacitor has been nerfed. Capacitor is a lot weaker. And yes, factually, Capacitor is weaker now in the amount of damage that it deals and whatnot, but that new active on Capacitor where it is now a slowing hex, like a complete slowing hex, not to the extent where, oh, you just can't use your teleport or whatever, you literally can't use stamina. I think Capacitor is much stronger now than what it was before, purely for that reason, because when you think about the heroes that are building Capacitor, they're mainly dueling heroes. Like Wraith can build Capacitor in Furnace, Ivy in the side lane, right? When you're a fed Ivy, as these 1v1 heroes, you Capacitor the guy, they can't run, they can't use stamina, they literally can't do anything, and you're just beaming them from a distance. So I think Capacitor is in a much better state now than what it was before for these gun heroes. So I consider it to be a buff, but you guys can leave your comments and think of whatever you want, doesn't matter, but that's my opinion. Barrier or shielding items, reactive barrier, weapon shielding, spirit shielding got nerfed across the board. And I think this is a much needed change because these items were being built too much every game, and it wasn't really like, oh, I'm building spirit shielding because these guys deal burst. It was more so I'm building spirit shielding, I'm unkillable, good luck. So I think this is a healthy change. I think this is very good. These shielding items will still be good, not to the extent of what they were before, where they're a must build in every game though. Spirit Sap, Silence Wave, and Focus Lens all had massive changes. So now, instead of Spirit Sap building into Silence Wave, Spirit Sap now builds into Focus Lens. And Silence Wave, instead of reducing Spirit, like the literal Spirit an enemy has, and their Spirit resists, it deals flat damage. And also still silences, of course, because it's called Silence Wave. Focus Lens, on the other hand, now reduces the Spirit resist by 12% and reduces the Spirit power. So it has the old effects of Silence Wave. Now, I think that these changes are pretty healthy. I like all that. I don't really have any complaints about it. I think people will think Focus Lens is like extremely broken for some time, but realistically, I don't think it's that broken. I think it's pretty balanced. Maybe I'm gonna eat my words in a few weeks. Who knows? Curse does what Capacitor used to do, and I really like this change, because if the enemy team had a Viscous, oh, do we have a Capacitor hero? Oh, no Capacitor hero? Okay, let's go fuck ourselves then, right? But now, oh, they have Viscous? Okay, who can build Cursed? Realistically, Curse is a much more easier item for any hero to build, and it also buffs Curse, right? Instead of just cursing an enemy, it removes the buffs that the player has, like if they're cubed, if they have infuser, whatever, right? So I really like this change that Valve did. W Valve, W change. All right, so there was a lot of hero changes. I'm gonna talk about some specific changes with some specific heroes that are important for you to know. Now, everything to an extent is important for you to know, so I recommend for you to go check it out, but I don't want to waste your time be like, Abram shoulder charge, 5-second cooldown. Like, I'm not gonna do that. So the first thing that I want to talk about is regen changes to each hero. Guys, this is very important. The amount of regen a laner has basically dictates, or rather implies, how strong they are in the laning phase. So we're gonna go through Doorman, Holiday, Mokrill, Paradox, Pocket, Sinclair, Warden, and Yamato all had their base regen reduced. This is, I don't really know what's gonna happen from this, but these laners are gonna have a much more harder time in laning phase. Think about characters like Lady Geist and 7 that have 1 regen, right? Those heroes have to basically build some kind of regen in every single lane they play in. Drifter and Dynamo, however, got their regen increased. So these heroes are heroes you're going to want to keep your eye on, specifically Drifter. This character is like a Thanos laner now, Drifter specifically. Dynamo, we're still unsure about. I'm still trying to figure it out personally, but these heroes are going to be really good given the amount of regen they have now in laning phase. Warden is another hero that you're going to want to keep your eye on. Yes, his regen got reduced by 1, but think about that change we talked about earlier where bullet damage got increased for all heroes across the board. Well, Warden also got his bullet damage increased for his hero specifically. So his bullet damage got increased and his bullet damage growth got increased. So I think Gun Warden for like a late game scaling win condition, or maybe just a mid game tempo character, is going to be very prevalent in pro play. This hero always had a pretty good lane. No one just really took notice of it, and no one drafted it. So I think Yoshi right now is a little unaware that Warden is actually S tier Thanos laner. Sinclair, you can now teleport to your clone twice. So you can go teleport and teleport again. So you go like back and forth, back and forth. I don't know if this is going to make the hero really good, but I like to think that now this hero is going to be extremely hard to catch. In turn, he might be drafted a lot more. And this is one of those heroes very similar to Warden, where he always had a really good lane. He was always a very good laner, but no one drafted him, right? I don't know why, but he's like very good in the Kelvin, very good in the Dynamo. I think this character might be picked more just given that the meta right now for like this patch is a lot of the really good conventional heroes got nerfed, right? Yamato got nerfed, Holiday got nerfed, Paradox got nerfed, but a lot of the heroes that were like pretty good, but low key really good, are gonna just be insanely good now because they're the last remaining like S tier laners, if that makes sense. And I think Sinclair is one of them. Mirage, once again, he is one of these heroes that always had a pretty good lane, but no one really drafted him. Right, he just was undrafted. This hero had none of his regen changed, and he probably got one of the most surprising buffs in the patch. So his Traveler can now target friendly objectives. What? Guys, this is going to be insane for competitive play. I don't know if anyone realizes this yet. We'll see what happens in the DNS. Maybe he'll still go unpicked, but this hero is like Thanos because of that. You can now pre-rotate to like walker takes as Mirage and just TP on your walker instead of waiting for the opponent to show on the walker and then you have to teleport on top of him. So like, I don't know, this is like insanity to me for the amount of like mid-game macro play you can do with this Mirage character now. Paradox finally got nerfed across the board. Everything about her, bullet damage growth, base health, health per boon, base regen as we already talked about, pulse grenade damage, spirit scaling, everything. Like that's like the whole package for this character. She just got gutted. And I think it was very, very needed. I think, like I said in one of my previous videos, her base stats were like the most broken part about her. So I'm very glad that Valve has done this change here. So yeah, guys, that's all I really got for you today. The most important thing that I want you guys to think about in this patch for like heroes and items, mainly heroes, is what heroes were unchanged? What heroes were always like low-key kind of pretty good in lane, but were never nerfed? Those heroes are going to be the ones that you want to think about and you want to check their win rate as the days goes on, because in my opinion, those heroes are actually going to be the Thanos heroes of this patch, the ones that weren't changed at all. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed the video. Drop a comment with what you think. Got some more videos coming soon, and I will see you all later. Peace out, boys.